it's Gail from Blue Rose Paper Treasures, back today with another Facebook Live technique class, online class. I'll just give everybody a couple of seconds to join in if they want to. Otherwise, we can watch the you can watch the Facebook live replay. I'm having some trouble with this group, and I did promise closed captions, and I can't seem to add them anymore, so I don't know what's going on. And when I do add them, doesn't convert to YouTube anyway, so I don't know what's going on. So just give everyone a few more seconds to join in, and then we'll get started with playing with some embossing paste and stencils. Back in a sec. Just close the blinds a bit because I thought it might be a little bit bright in here, and I'll just see what it looks like on the video. Might have been a bit too bright. We'll see how we go. Alright, okay, let's get started. Embossing paste and stencils. Alright, so the tools that you'll need, and I might have to open that blind again, a little bit covering what I'm doing. Alright, embossing paste. Embossing paste doesn't have a very long shelf life. I only opened this last week to do these cards. It was a brand new jar. I've kind of destroyed the lid part of it. I'm assuming that's to try and keep it fresh, and already it's starting to go hard. It's not as soft as it was when I first got it. I didn't think it would dry out quite that quickly, but it is dependent on the temperature and the atmosphere and how much moisture is in the air or how dry it is. So there's not a long shelf life. If you think that it's going to last 12 months, it won't. I mean, if you go to open it a couple of months later, it'll be rock hard. I've tried mixing water with it to loosen it. I end up just throwing it away. So it's not a very long shelf life with embossing paste. You'll need some palette knives. Because I'm using multiple colours today, I've got a few of these. And it doesn't matter if it's a metal one or a plastic one. As long as you've got some palette knives. The other thing we need is some tape and lots and lots and lots of craft sheets, or something underneath that you can easily clean. I've got hundreds of these just floating around all over the place. Alright, so there'll be 4 different ways, I think. 4 different ways that I'm going to show you how to use the embossing paste. 2 of the methods, I did these last week. They need to be completely dry. So while I had the paste going last week, I did a couple of extra ones because it needs to be completely dry. But for the other techniques, it needs to be wet when we're going to put some embossing powder on it. So these ones are nice and dry, ready for watercolouring. So we'll get to that one. But for ones like that we're going to emboss, we need the embossing paste wet just after we apply it. It does take a while to dry. I've tried heat setting it, but I prefer not to heat set it. I'd rather let it dry on its own. So the first card we'll do is the gold and silver heat embossing on it. And I think that's a really neat, and it looks so very nice. And here's the other one I did. Here's the other one I made. And it's a very classy wedding card. And you don't need to add anything else to it because you've got all that beautiful sparkle from the embossing powder. Alright, the first one we'll do, right, get yourself, I always cut a piece larger than I actually need. And I always cut it down. You don't have to, you can use the size that you want, but I prefer to use a bigger piece because if something doesn't work out, you can cut it down to size and just use part of it. Right, first thing is get your mat that can easily be cleaned. A larger than you would normally need piece of watercolor. We're using all watercolor paper for these. Just thought I'd better throw that in. Although on these ones, actually I think on these ones, that one I use watercolor paper and that one I just use Whisper White. So for this technique you can use watercolor or Whisper White. And it actually looks a lot shinier because I've got really horrible, I haven't got really white watercolor paper. I have ordered some Stampin' Up! Ones, so I'm hoping that it's a nice white. But you can see the difference, how nice and white the Whisper White is to that compared to my watercolor paper's got a bit of a creamy colour to it. So for this technique you can use either, but I'd already cut the watercolor paper, so we'll use that. Stencils. These stencils are from the annual catalogue and they are called, oh here it is. These are the basic pattern decorative masks. Stencils masks, the same thing. And there's 4 in the set. The dots, which I've got drying on the sink. The fancy pattern, the flourish, and the trees. I haven't used that one yet. I think that one might be a bit hard because it's very a lot of open area in that. I haven't used that one yet. So we'll just use the flourish because that's what I've used on these cards. So you're just going to tape your mask or your stencil over your watercolor paper. And the one that I just did, I just want to show you, when you heat embossing it, you need somewhere to grip onto it while you're holding it. So when you put the masking tape around the edge, around the stencil, make sure it goes over some of the what you've got underneath, so then you've got something to hold on to. If you just put the tape there, you're going to have the whole thing covered and you've got nothing to hold on to. Alright, so this one, tape. So I just use my painter's tape because I've got truckloads of it. And I'm just going to put it straight over the stencil to hold it down. Probably should put a straight piece on it. Tape it down. I think I've got some here from before. Alright, try to recycle when I can. Oh, that one didn't work. Oh, that one didn't work. Oh, not going to be able to recycle those. Masking tape will be fine, but just make sure it goes over the edge so you've got something to grip. And if you carefully take them off, you can use it on the next one. And I'm going to take that one off because it's not the full length. Alright, so that's nice and secure. Grab your palette knife, grab your embossing paste, and grab a chunk. And then you just pop it down and turn your palette knife over, and then you're just going to wipe it down. You don't want to play with this too much, and you don't want it to be, you know, sit there for a long time. You just want to get it on and spread it. You need a bit more. I probably don't. You want to get it over the entire piece, and then I just scrape it to get all the excess off. And then put it back in the jar, put the lid straight back on. Now if you want to test it to make sure you've got it, you can just tilt it, and by tilting it you can tell if you've missed any little bits. But that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And it's all completely flat. You don't want any big lumpy bits. Alright, and that's all you do. Make sure you wash these things out straight away, because this stuff sticks. Alright, now I can keep that for the next one. I'm just going to peel that off and put it on another sheet. Carefully peel it off. I'll probably leave that on there for the next one and then peel it off. Alright, normally I would run straight into the kitchen and clean that, but I'm going to use it for another one as well. Alright, and there you have it. So now you've got somewhere to grip while you're drying it with the the heat tool. Alright, so there was reason to my madness why I've left an area to hold on to. Right, while it's still wet, we're going to grab the embossing powder. Don't need Versamark because the embossing powder will stick to this straight away. I'm using a combination of silver and gold on this one. You can use whatever colours you like. I'm just going to grab a scrap. And we just open it up. And you're just going to pour little bits over certain areas, not over the whole lot. It's just randomly, tap it a bit. Just little bits, little bit, and we're straight over. Alright, so there's the gold. And you don't have to worry about any of the gold coming off into the silver. Once it's on there, it sticks to it. A little bit of silver, and you can just go over the rest of it. Oh, that looks pretty well covered. Let's see that, that's pretty well covered. And did I get my lids mixed up? Alright, and we'll grab the heat tool, which I haven't got close enough, but we'll try and use it. Now this part does take a while, because you've got to heat all of that. So this will take a little bit of time. And my heat tool's not heated up yet, so once it starts heating, you should be able to see that change. You don't want to heat it too much, but just until the embossing powder melts. And if you leave it too long, it starts to bubble. Doesn't that look so pretty? I hope you can see that. Alright, just do a double check, make sure there's no bits that you've missed. And that's it. And there's the first one done. Now once it's finished, let it completely cool down, because that embossing powder takes a while to cool down once it's melting. And then that's ready to be, either you can trim it to shape or you can run it through the Big Shot. Now I think I've mentioned before, everyone's Big Shot is calibrated differently. Now mine's quite loose from all the use it gets. So what I did with these ones, this one I just trimmed, and this one I actually embossed the stitch rectangle. I die cut it with a stitch rectangle, and it's actually flattened it a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. So it's I've got one that's really raised, and then this one, running it through the Big Shot's flattened it a little bit. And I think that looks really neat. So test your Big Shot to see if you know that it's already very tight grip on your Big Shot. I don't know what will happen, but mine's very loose. And I was really pleased with that. So I don't know if you can see the two of those together. So that one's been die cut and that one hasn't. I just trimmed the outside of that one. Alright, and there's that one there. So there's a couple of little bits. Like around here. I would probably, something like that, that's where I put a greeting over the top to cover it. Whoops, dropped it again. But there you have it. So there's the first one. So now it's ready to do whatever you want with it. So that's embossing it with the gold and the silver embossing powder. Right, that's one technique. I can get rid of that now. Alright, let's get to the funner ones. Alright, card number 2. Actually, no, I'm going to do this one first. Alright, this one's my favourite. I love how the colours turn out. They're so completely different to the colours of the ink pads. Once they go onto here, onto the embossed watercolour, they were nothing like the colours. So the 3 colours I used, believe it or not, were those 3. So that was the Melon Mumbo, and it really is not, it's a beautiful pink colour though, almost like a fluorescent pink. I used the So Saffron up the top, and I used the Pumpkin Pie in the middle. Now for this technique, we need the one that's already embossing paste. Now with this one, I actually mucked up the right hand side, and that's why I ended up trimming it to shape. So that's why I said start with a bigger piece, and if something doesn't work out, you can always cut it to size. And I actually really like how that one turned out, except I've put that on, that's not exactly straight. But alright, so this one is just simple watercolouring. Just open them all up. You can use re-inkers or use, I'm not going to do this anymore. I've made an awful mess of all my ink pads. Hope you can see that. Alright, I forgot to get a glass of water, so I'm going to I'll do it a different way. Alright, so you need some water. I forgot my glass of water, so I'm just going to pour some out of there. Well, probably don't need that much. And then I've got this really, it's a cheap brush, and it's all the bristles are falling out of it, but it's a really soft one. It's a lovely soft brush, this one. And all I'm going to do is, I don't know if you can see that, pick up the water, the bottle of water I've put there. If you didn't have that, you'd have a glass of water or something. And just go over, hope you can see that, and just brush it over the entire card. Now you can see why you can't do this technique while it's wet. So don't add too much water. I think that's what I did. I added too much water, that's why I had to trim it down. And there's one of the bristles coming off it already. I have to find some good quality ones. Oh no. Can't get the bristle off. There we go, got it. Alright, while it's still wet, a little bit more water. Whack it in there. And I started with the light colour. And I just brushed it. And I dabbed it. Just a combination of dabbing all over. Haven't got much in there. Alright, need a bit more. You can always go back and add more. Alright, so just gently dab it. Next colour. I did the pumpkin pie, and once again I just dabbed it and just blended the colours into each other. You can always go back and add a bit more. Another bristle and another bristle. Oh, I've got to get another brush. A bit more water, give some of the darker. Oh, lost my water. I don't know how many times I thought I must go and get water, and I got totally distracted. Alright, just add a little bit more. Alright, and I didn't worry about, I kind of cleaned the brush a little bit. But then I went to the pink, the Melon Mumbo, and there's still a little bit of orange on that, so that's kind of coming through that anyway. And I need more water. So obviously if you do this, you'll have a bottle, a little jar of water there. And just carefully dab it. If we make bits darker. Don't get bristles in it like what I'm doing. And that's all I did. And just let that dry. And that will dry like that. So completely different from wet to dry. You see the difference? Totally different, whoops. Totally different between wet and dry. And I let that dry for quite a while. I think I just dabbed a bit of the edges. Dabbed the edges. And then I think I even went back and I added a bit more of the, oh gosh, I'm going to have to go and get some water in a sec. I'm going to add a bit more of the, say, saffron. I hope that's, no, that was a mixture of both. Oh, I'm going to have to get the bottle of water. Look what I've done. I've made a big mess. Oh, try it again. Re-inkers would have been better rather than trying to get it out of the lid. Go back and add a little bit more. Right, I'm going to add a bit more of the orange. There we go. I'm going to leave that. Don't want to play with it anymore. So I'll just leave that on one of these craft sheets to dry off naturally, and then I'll trim it to whatever size I want. Alright, so that one, make sure that your embossing paste is completely dry. It's good to, if you do it the day before, and then add your colour to it. So that's that one. I'll just pop that over there to dry and clean up my mess. And I'm finished with these colours, so I'll put them away. So 2 more techniques and then we're done. Alright, so this technique, we're actually going to colour the embossing paste. So the first thing I need to do is grab 3 little piles, and that's why I have 3 brushes, because I'm going to use one for each colour. So just grab 3 little piles. You don't need a lot, probably too much. Alright, one for each colour. And we're going to add a drop of re-inker. Now I've just picked 3 colours. That one is Highland Heather. 1 drop is all you need. I've got Coastal Cabana. And I've got an old, I love this colour, it was Cucumber Crush. It's a retired colour, but I love this one. Alright. Alright, so just mix up each one. I've probably done them a little bit too close together, but just mix the colour in. And the green. Alright, we've mixed the colours, so we're going to do the same process as before. I've still got some of that tape on there, so I'll use that. A little bit here. Alright, so what we're going to do is the same thing, but we're doing it with colour. So you can do whatever pattern you want. I just kind of went straight across, so I think I'll stick with that one. Probably haven't got enough there, but Alright, with the colour, at least you can see if you've missed any bits. Alright, so there's that one. I'll put the Coastal Cabana in the middle. Try to stay on the side of it rather than dropping it straight in the middle. There you go, no wastage on that one. I used all those colours. And it doesn't matter if it goes over the other because that'll create a nice hue. I don't know what this green's going to look like, but so I'll just scrape it on the back and then across. Oh, it's fun. Oh, that was a bit. And there you have it. I'd wash them straight away. We'll just take that off. Now what I did to this one, because I wanted a nice shiny finish on it, I actually put clear. If I can find my clear. I sprinkled clear embossing powder over it. Oh, those colours look nice, don't they? Ooh, look at that. So this one, just pop some clear on it. You can leave it plain, but the clear embossing powder just makes it so lovely and shiny. Tap it off. Yep, that's covered. Once again, I've left enough room to grip it. And we'll heat set that one as well. They don't have, that can sit there for a while. It doesn't have to be heat set straight away, but you don't want to leave it there for too long. Alright, so I'll just do this and then we'll have one more card. And that'll be all of them done. It just brings out the nice colour in it when you put the clear on it. So you can see the difference between where I've embossed it with the clear and where I haven't. It gave it a nice shiny finish. Come on, dry, dry, dry. See the difference between where I'm embossing it, heat setting it? And what I also did was when it was cold, I just put a large acrylic block on it just to flatten it a bit. Alright, it's pretty well done. Yep, that's done. There's the button. Alright, look at that. Alright, and now that's ready to either cut your shape, trim it, or die cut it with a stencil, with a stitch rectangle for a really nice finish. Just make sure that your dies, after you've die cut it, I didn't have any problem. There wasn't any embossing paste in my die, but obviously just keep an eye on that to make sure that none of it is left behind. And the same with your trimmer. It's easily trimmed with any trimmer. Just make sure you clean your blade or your rotary blade or your whatever. Just make sure there's no gunk attached to it before you start cutting anything else. So that's the third technique. Alright, now our last technique is basically the same. I'm going to get rid of that. get ready to wash them as soon as I hang up. Now this one I kind of did it a different way. I used the dots on this just for something different. What I wanted was, as opposed to this one, I kind of wanted to do the opposite, where I kept the embossing white, but I watercoloured the background. So what I did was I clear embossed it. I've done another one this morning, because once again it needs to be dry. But I realised as I was putting clear on it, I probably should have put white on it. I should have white heat embossed it. Because with this one, although you still get some of the colour coming through on it, if I had used white embossing powder, I think that would have made it so that they stand out white and the background just gets coloured. So what I'll do, so that one's got clear on it, but I test it with white embossing powder and see if that makes any difference. I'm nearly out of embossing paste, so I probably haven't got any. I'm just going to use the same three colours. I'm just going to put a little bit on here. Oh dear. And I'm just going to watercolour wash it. The same as I did the other one, except that I'm now probably almost out of water. Alright. Let's hope that doesn't have any colour on it. I'm just going to go over the whole piece. Oh, there's a bit of pink on it. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. That's right. A little bit of pink on it. Boy, I'm going through water. It's so much better if I had a jar. Alright, so just watercolour wash with the water, and then just drop a bit of water in there, and then I'm just going to do this one randomly. Grab the next colour, which is that one. Oops. Oops, oops, oops. Alright, and do the green. Green to purple don't look good together. So I'm just carefully dabbing rather than brushing it out, brushing it over. I might add more. Just remember, it's going to be a lighter colour once it gets absorbed in. They're not very good colour choices, but it might look different when it's dry. I might try some more green. Yeah, that green and purple didn't blend together very well. I probably should have stuck with Bermuda Bay. So yeah, yep, those colours didn't really work, but this is the beauty of live TV. This is going live videos. Alright, so I probably wouldn't do much more to that and just let it dry, but I might find a use for that somewhere. But yeah, those colours don't go very well together, whereas on that they blended quite nicely. But yet on that, but like I said, that might look completely different when it's dry. Alright, so all those little dots now, all those little circles, you can just dab at those to get any excess colour off them, because they have been embossed. Yep. So it's a lot paler than what the colours are when it comes out of the re-inker. Alright, so see, not everything I make looks great. That looks terrible. Those colours together don't look very good at all. So, yeah, normally you wouldn't see that. I'd throw it away before you saw it, but that just gives you the idea of the technique anyway. Alright, well, that's all I have for you today. No assembling cards or anything, because that's the technique that I wanted to show you. Clean up my mess. So I'm going to run to the kitchen and run all this under hot water now. I'll leave that to dry near my door there, so that'll be nice for later. And it might look better when it's dry. You just never know. So that was that one. So that was, we can sort of call it negative and positive. So that's colouring the background. That's adding colour to the embossing paste. That one there is watercolouring once this is completely dry, adding the colour, and that's looking, I'll show you that now. It's still very wet. You see that? It's still very wet, but then once that dries, it should all absorb into the watercolour paper and it'll be a nice pastel colour. So that'll take a while to dry. And the first one was gold and silver or copper or whatever fancy colours you've got, to make some nice simple wedding cards or engagement cards or just a simple card. You don't need to add anything else. But like I said, that little bit there where it's obviously missed a little bit, I would use that to cover it with the greeting or the sentiment. So, because the rest of it's perfect, but that little bit there, but that's me. I noticed that, probably no one else would, but I've noticed that I've missed a bit of embossing paste there. Okay, well that's it for today. Like I said, I've got to go clean this stuff straight away, otherwise that embossing paste just sticks to everything and you can't get it off. Just run it all under warm water. I just use a dishwashing brush to scrub everything clean, or some paper towels first so it doesn't all go down the drain and block the drain. But I'll just go and take all of that into the kitchen and give it all a big clean. Alright, if anyone has any questions, let me know. And but it's all pretty easy. Saturday's cards will be the faux tile technique, learning how to do the tiles, make them look like, you know, little tile cards. Look that way. That'll be Saturday's technique. And I'm waiting for some new stamps to arrive, so there might be something different for next Saturday's one. Alright, gotta go. I'll chat to you all soon. Bye.